back to Let's Talk. Today we are speaking with Suzanne Berry. Hello, Suzanne.
Hi, Emily. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good. Not too shabby for a Wednesday.
Awesome. Well, we are going to ask Suzanne a few questions, get to know her a little bit, talk about just coloring in kind of general with her, and see where we go with it. So let's begin with, how long have you been coloring for?
Well, as an adult, since about 2015, but as a tiny human, pretty much from when I could hold a crayon. So my favourite things were the giant bumper colouring books with the terrible paper and the huge designs, but I was never sort of more happier unless I was sitting in front of a colouring book with my box of crayons. And then as I grew, it kind of got to the point where you move on and you start doing other things. And then when I was, well, I'm not going to tell you how old I was, I'm not going to give it away, but back in 2015, my mum actually had a stroke at quite an early age, and she'd lost some of the use in her right hand. And that was around the time that Enchanted Forest was out. So, of course, we both got copies of the book. She started colouring, I started colouring, she got the use in her hand back. And that's just spiraled me into the colouring community where I am now.
Oh, absolutely. I think I'm actually right along that same timeline. Mine was Enchanted Forest. It was 2015. Yep. It was right along there. But that's awesome that you guys were able to kind of come together and do that together. And in the end, it ended up helping her more too, which is just amazing.
Definitely. Yeah, that was thanks to Johanna and her books. If we hadn't have seen them, it wouldn't have been a sudden lightning bolt. Let's try this and see how we go with her hand. And she bought every book in the shop practically, and her hand's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, then that kind of leads me into our sort of next question. So, favorite book and illustrator, or are they separate? Do you have a favorite book and a separate favorite illustrator? I mean, we both know we have a love of Johanna, so...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a complete cliche, but she is my favourite illustrator. I've got a shelf of books of different illustrators. They get neglected. I don't really look at them because my favourite ones that I always keep going back to are Magical Jungle and Worlds of Wonder. I think for me, Worlds of Wonder will always hold a special place in my heart because that's the first book I got that she wrote my name in.
That's
and
awesome.
She signed, and it's just like, I've had it now since March. I never get tired of looking at that page because it's just the most special thing, as you'll know, because you've had them too.
You got an early release copy. What was your first reaction when you were first contacted by her? Like, hey, I want to send you an early copy.
Wow. So it's quite funny actually. I had this email saying, oh, by the way, Johanna would like to send you an early release copy of the book. Well, it was just disbelief. I couldn't believe, like, oh my God, is this real? And then, of course, it's the most eagerly anticipated parcel I think I've ever had. I've never looked at the doormat so many times, like, is DHL here?
Oh,
are they there yet?
Yeah. I think when they finally came on my door, I'm like, I've been waiting for you all day. Why didn't you come earlier?
I know. So, yeah, it was just fantastic. It was actually Claire Holloway and Gail Kemble, who are two of the admins for the Johanna Basford Your Pages group. They put me forward for it because I think of a lot of the work I'd been doing in the group with tutorials. I've been doing them, I guess, pretty much every Sunday since around the middle of January this year, on and off. I've had the odd break. And they kind of made my dreams come true.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that so much. Yeah, I think I remember the first email that I got from her wasn't necessarily for a book. It was for another project. But I literally remember like waking up in the morning, checking my email and like doing a double take, like, no way. Like, what is this a thing? And I remember running out to my husband and be like, can you read this? Am I reading this right?
I was the same. I don't know what to do with myself. And that was me in a state of excitement for around a month until the book arrived.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Well, so obviously, we do a lot of Johanna books, and a lot of those are smaller detailed. Do you have like a favorite, even not just in Johanna books, but in the books in general, do you have a favorite coloring medium that you like to use?
Yeah, I tend to always go back to Prismacolor. I did start off with any old pencils from anywhere when I first started colouring in 2015, because I really didn't know the difference between some of the brands and how to even use some of them. And then I caught a look at Chris Cheng's work on YouTube and thought, wow. So that then got me into Prismacolor, because I started doing some of her tutorials, and then I just fell in love with the pencil. I mean, my polychromos I also love as well, but they're a very different medium to use. So I flit about. I've got different things. Like I use Castle Arts as well. It's really hard to sort of pigeonhole one brand, because there's so many that I like. I like my Ergo Soft, which I know you like using. Mm-hmm. So it depends how I'm feeling and what I'm colouring, but I will always default to Prismacolor, always.
Oh, absolutely. Well, so for Prismacolor, those are the ones that I used first also. Like they were just my go-to, was the ones I knew, was the ones I used in college. So they were the ones that I was most familiar with. So I think that's a pretty common theme, because a lot of them, they're an affordable artist grade pencil is what they are. So so they are they're easier to get your hands on, and not quite nearly as intimidating, and there's a large range of colors. Have you ever ventured into using any other kinds of mediums like watercolors, or like there's a Faber-Castell brand of gelatos? Have you ever kind of ventured into any more wet mediums or markers or any of that?
Yeah, very recently actually. So I'd already started dabbling around with Derwent Inktense, which I really enjoy using. I've been using those for around 18 months. But I've recently started delving into watercolors, paint. A lot, very, very different to getting that to work on the page. But I'm just trying to expand and sort of looking at other techniques that other people are using and trying to learn how to do something a little bit different. I'm all over metallic watercolors at the moment. I can't get enough of them. I think I was a magpie in a former life. Anything that shines, I love it.
They're so pretty. Like they're just kind of like iridescent. I've got some Arteza metallics, and they've got some like iridescent ones that look different on black and look different on white paper. And so it's really fun to play with. Well, if you're kind of diving into watercolors, then have you? I don't know. What are your thoughts on backgrounds? Like when you do backgrounds, do you do them pencils? Do you like use them with watercolors? Do you absolutely loathe doing backgrounds?
As we kind of say over here in the UK, it's like Marmite, you either love it or you hate it. So backgrounds, oh dear, they're quite the bane of my life, if I'm being fair. If I can avoid doing them by drawing a box around it to make the page smaller, so I have a smaller background to do, or if I can get around it by using, say, soft pastels with a bit of pencil over the top, I will do it. And if I'm feeling really in the zone, I will just go for it. But backgrounds, they put so much, for me, they put a lot of pressure onto a piece that you're finishing, because if you've had this image on your page and you've done it and you love it and you don't find backgrounds easy, like I don't, it kind of puts you off doing them. So believe me, if I can find the workaround to avoid it, I always do.
I think I'm right there with you. Like I used to do a lot more backgrounds, like really in depth, like thought out. Like I drew, like some of them I would draw like Disney characters and stuff, but so much more these days. I'm just like, I want to color the picture, and then I want to be done with the picture.
Yeah, same.
Like, unless it just is screaming for a background, I'm just like, I don't want to force myself to put extra work into it and not enjoy it.
Same, exactly right. And I think backgrounds can put a lot of pressure on people. I see in a lot of, within the community, people stressing about their backgrounds, and it's not going to look good enough, I'm going to ruin my page, stuff like that. And I always think, if you're not too sure about it, leave it, because it doesn't matter. It's your book. It looks how you want it to look, period. There's no pressure there. And if it puts pressure on you, then step away from it until you feel in a better place with it.
Exactly. When you are coloring and you're working on your pages, do you have something that you like to watch or listen to, podcasts, audiobook, TV show on in the background?
Yeah, definitely. I usually colour in the evenings after work. At the weekends, I'll do as much as I can get away with, really. And 9 times out of 10, there will be something on in the background, a box set on Netflix, or a movie that I've seen lots of times, so I can just listen to it rather than watch it while I'm colouring. But I do like podcasts. I like listening to Passionista Colorista's podcast. I find those very relaxing. So good.
Isabel's awesome.
Yeah. So it just depends what's on, really. I've usually got a quarter of an eye on the telly and an eye and 3/4 on what I'm doing. So
that's awesome. So what does your family think of your adult coloring?
Wow. The ones that realize that I actually do this, like my dad is oblivious to it. He doesn't understand at all, which is fine, bless him. But my mum, she's really, really super supportive, very proud. She loves what I do. She started joining me as an admin on my Facebook group and stuff.
I
And
love that.
she's like, when are you going to sit down and color with me at a table? And I'm like, I've got hours of tutorials for you to watch at any point. And it's like this constant thing that we laugh about. My wife, she is very, very supportive. She loves what I do. She's happy for, to let me have my own time over here with the colouring community, the lives. I think she's more popular on my live streams than I am, to be fair. The second they hear her, they're all like, oh my God, Catherine, which is quite funny. But yeah, they're very, very supportive. My mum's partner calls it colouring in. That's a bit of a sore point. We're discussing this. It's not colouring in, it's art. Thank you.
Exactly. I love that.
But yeah, awesome. They're super supportive, which is really nice.
Well, aside from family, then just kind of, we say, in real life versus, online or just in your community, have you found anyone that also enjoys coloring? Maybe not necessarily as much as we do, but just in general, maybe gets it and enjoys doing it, in their free time?
Yeah, a few of my work colleagues know that I do this and didn't know I did it until quite recently. And I have a couple of my good friends at work who've bought colouring books since, and they will de-stress or they'll come on my live streams with me because they like, awesome. For some reason, they don't appear to object to hearing me ramble all day at work and then in the evening as well. Very strange. But yeah, a few of my friends at work have started to colour for relaxation and maybe wouldn't have even considered that if we hadn't have been speaking about it. So yeah, it's nice. I have it sort of at home and away from home with people, which is super fun.
That's awesome. I love that. So what are some coloring challenges that you have set for yourself before? So for instance, like I've done a 1 pencil challenge on a page where I think I just used Tuscan red and a blender pencil. So do you have any challenges like that you've done?
Yeah, so I've done some left-handed colouring because I'm naturally a right-handed person.
It's so hard.
It's really hard. It turns you back into a toddler. It took a few sessions, but I can actually colour pretty well with my left hand now. And that was a really big challenge. I mean, I got carpal tunnel in my right hand. So it was a case of you either learn how to do it with your left hand for a period of time or you don't do it. So that's the biggest challenge that I set myself, is actually learning how to colour as a lefty. I haven't done it for a while.
It's hard.
But it's hard.
I went on Tammy's channel. I'll link her in the description below. And we did a left-handed coloring challenge, and there were 4 of us. And I literally had to hold my left hand with my right hand because I couldn't. It was okay by the end, but to begin with, it was disastrous. So right there with coloring challenges, what is the largest coloring page that you've ever completed?
Oh, wow. I think the largest page that I've done was one of the artist editions from, I want to say it was Secret Garden. I think it was, with the owl in the middle with the leaves around the outside. And yeah. So I actually coloured that for my mum for a Mother's Day gift.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and that was a really, really big project. That's the biggest one that I've done so far. But I am the biggest avoider of a double page. Every double page there is in a book, I will split it and colour each side differently because I just cannot do it otherwise.
Yeah, I'm
so bad.
With you. Your next one you got to take on is the 4-page spread in Lost Ocean.
Oh, that just makes me go, oh no.
That was mine. That was my biggest one. And I was on the last page of it, the 4th page, and my Wink of Stella brush pen exploded and it soaked and it made oh my gosh. I ended up salvaging it, but I about had a minor little heart attack.
Yeah, I can imagine. You're a braver woman than I am. That's all I can say. From a double page avoider, there's no way I'm doing a 4-page spread. Not a chance.
The last time I've done a double page, I had much more coloring stamina back then, and now I'm just like 1 page. I'm good.
Yeah,
and then we move
same.
on to the next one.
We are officially 1-page queens.
Exactly. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any, just over your time coloring, any kind of tips or tricks that you've picked up? Do you have any favorite things that you do that you use on your coloring pages, or techniques that you do, or things you would recommend to other people? Like, hey, this is a quick and easy. Coloring hacks. Ooh, do we have any coloring hacks?
Colouring hacks. I think one of the most simplest things that I do is I use makeup brushes a lot of the time. So with Prisma, which I use a lot of the time, you'll know from using them that they're quite soft, they're a bit crumbly, and before you know it, you can smudge your hand across the page and you end up with bits everywhere. Yes. So I actually use a really big makeup brush that you would use for blusher to actually brush the residue away.
Oh, that's awesome.
And something else that I do, which isn't an easy hack, there's a technique to it, is I cover my finished pages with sticky adhesive book covering. And that stops colour transfer from page to page. So it can go very wrong and it can leave air bubbles and wrinkles.
I was going to ask about bubbles. Because I laminated pages for a while. I took them down to a print shop and I got them laminated, but I haven't done it. I haven't done it in a while. I think now who's the braver woman? Because I think I would be too worried about bubbles. I'd be like,
I would say 95% of the time it goes without a hitch, and the odd one will go terribly wrong, and I get absolutely furious with myself because it's actually relatively simple. You just smooth it over with a ruler and it applies itself, and cut around it with a cutting mat.
And then you can keep it in the book too, because that was my thing, is I would cut them out and get them laminated, but then they're out of the books. But if you're doing it that way, then you can keep them within the book.
That's it. And it's once you've got the knack of it, it's quite an easy thing to do, and it does stop that awful colour transfer from page to page. And you know, when you get the designs from the other page, it will transfer over. You have to erase it, so it just stops all of that.
How do you trim the edges, like the overlay? Because I assume that you don't like cut it to fit exactly, like you place it and then trim the edge, or how does that work?
So the stuff that I use has got squares on the back. So when you cut it to size, I usually cut it maybe 2 centimeters either side of the page all the way around, and I do it on a cutting mat. So once I've laid it on, you just use a ruler and a sharp craft knife, and you just trim down the sides, and then it springs up and it's all covered. It takes minutes, but yeah, I love it. I go through rolls and rolls of the stuff.
That's awesome. I love that idea. What are some resources for coloring inspiration that you found? I know a lot of people, like to use Pinterest and Instagram. Do you have any other additional kind of places that are go-to, like if you're looking for, what does a plant look like, or, how did so-and-so color this? Or do you have any favorite colorists that you repeatedly go to? Like Black Aneria, she is amazingly talented. And I always go to her stuff and go, I'd like to do something like that, but there's no way.
Yeah, that's definitely a colouring goal. I mean, you look at her artwork and it just absolutely blows your brain. Yes. I have to say the biggest resource that I will always go back to will be what Chris Cheng does. She is an absolute magician when it comes to Prismacolors. Yeah, it's just insane the stuff she produces.
Her all the time. She's so good. So good.
Definitely. But as well, I've mentioned the Johanna Basford Your Pages group because predominantly they're the books that I colour in. I'm in that group a lot. So I look at other people's artwork, and sometimes I get inspiration just from seeing bits of pages that people have done, and it will suddenly give me an idea for one of my own pages. So I kind of dot about, the same as with the profile grids and things on Instagram. I'm a very visual person, so I'll see something and think, oh, that's great. I love that. I could maybe use a bit of that on another page. Or so yeah, I'm kind of in the same places really, but I'm usually lurking around the Facebook groups and Instagram most days, to be fair.
Yeah, I think for a lot of us colorists, we're very much visual people, which is why Instagram and all of the picture platforms, they're perfect for it, because it's just like, I don't know, if you're struggling, especially if you're doing portraits and you're just like, I have no idea. Like if it's an artist you're completely unfamiliar with, they're like, where do I put these highlights? Like I haven't got a clue.
Yeah.
And so you can go on, whether it's, Hannah Carlton or Christine Karen, and you can find some favorites like, oh, that's where they put their highlights, and then you can move on from there. Because that's definitely how I've learned over time. And, I've developed my own style for it, but having something there to kind of match up and be like, oh, well, maybe that's why mine looks so funky. Like there's no highlight there, or there shouldn't be a shadow there, or there should be, or, whatever else.
Yeah, same. I mean, like portraiture in particular, the only faces I've coloured were following Chris Cheng's tutorials, because the one I did try and do on my own looked like it had a really nasty accident with a tanning booth. So, that is not something naturally that I can just do myself. I need sort of guiding through that. So, Chris Cheng, although there's never any speaking on her channels, it's always nice music and stuff, which, to be fair, I turn off. If I didn't have those to watch, I probably wouldn't have ever attempted to do a face.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think I like that about, because I feel like, especially with the community, there's something for everyone. So like, for instance, for my channel, there's probably more than enough talking. And so if somebody is looking for videos with less talking, I'm just like, here's an incredibly talented artist. Her stuff is silent and she's got music. And like, this is what you're looking for, and you won't be disappointed. Like, she's just so talented.
Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Love it.
Well, speaking of videos then, so you mentioned that you go live on Johanna Basford, your pages, you go live on Instagram as well. What made you want to start doing live coloring videos, or what made you brave enough to tackle live? Because those, I can speak from experience, those first couple ones, they're a little nerve-wracking, and it's just like,
being completely honest, it's not something I ever wanted to do. I didn't see myself doing it. I'm a natural introvert. I'm quite shy. I don't like face in front of the camera stuff. Talking on camera, I've been doing them now for nearly 2 years, and I still get a terribly nervous stomach every time I go to go live, because it's really scary. But the thing that pushed it was I did a hydrangea in Ivy and the Inky Butterfly. Really simple colour palette, but it seemed to break the internet. Thousands of people were sort of commenting on it, contacting me like, oh, please do a video. And I did this really sort of like rudimentary video of me holding my phone and just sliding a pencil. And it's like the worst thing you'll ever see in your life. And people loved it. And so I just started maybe doing a few minutes live and doing a couple of bits. And it kind of was the community that's been my biggest colouring challenge. It's not been a page or a technique or anything like that. It's been being brave enough to be an active part of the community and try and pass on the things that I know how to do. So whilst I don't do it regularly, well, as regularly as you do at the moment, because I've needed a bit of a break, but yeah, I do it because of the friendships that I've made, and I enjoy teaching.
They're just the way that everybody comes together, even if like there's a colorist who's having, if there's any kind of like crisis or something going on, it's like all automatically like everybody just kind of comes together. Yeah. When you say community, it is a legitimate community, and it
really is. And it's got to the point really now where, although I have had a break for a couple of weeks, I'm missing it, and I will be coming probably back to it this week, if not next week, because I miss the conversation. Although it's very one-sided, it doesn't feel like that when you get the same people that are coming back time and time again, and you're chatting with them, and it's something that I didn't realize I needed, and I did.
Absolutely. Well, especially with a lot of us, most of us aren't in lockdown anymore, but the last couple of years has changed the way that people have socialized, and being able to have this online community and this outlet to speak with other people, not just other people, but other people with your interest, has been invaluable. Like, I don't know about you or anybody else that's listening, but being able to make that connection when we were all stuck in quarantine and lockdown was immensely valuable. Like, it was fantastic.
Same, massively. The lives in the Johanna Basford Your Pages group started in January, and we in the UK had just been plunged into the second major lockdown. Christmas had been wrecked, and the COVID rates were so high, and it was really difficult. And the home becomes the workplace and everything else. And doing those lives every week kind of saved my sanity, as well as I've had lots of messages from people saying, like, you've saved my sanity, so thank you. And it's little things like that that take me out of myself and make me keep doing it.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's awesome. Well, we've mentioned Johanna Basford, your pages. Obviously, you have your Instagram. All of the links are going to be in the description below. Aside from those two, where else can people find you?
So I also have my own Facebook group. There's nothing adventurous about the title. It's just Suzanne Berry Colouring. So that can be found. 9 times out of 10, though, I'm hanging out in the Johanna Basford Your Pages group, or my own Instagram profile, which is at Suzanne_W for whiskey, B for Bravo.
That's awesome. Well, and then you also, did I say YouTube? I think you also have a YouTube where you upload videos afterwards, right?
I do, yes. So that's also Suzanne Berry Colouring. And all of the links to all of those groups are in the bio on my Instagram profile.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, I think that's all the questions that I have for you today. Suzanne, thank you so much for joining us and chatting with us and letting us get to know you a little bit and a little bit about your journey. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And if I don't speak to you before, have a very, very Merry Christmas.
You too. Everyone, all the links for everything we talked about today are going to be in the description below. If you liked what you saw here today, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll chat with you next time. Bye.